All right, so it's my belief
Uh-huh.
that before you get married, you got to know if you're compatible or not.
I realized after almost a decade that we're extremely different, but we're compatible.
Well, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Okay, so let's talk compatibility. You said you feel like people, before you get married, you need to figure out your level of compatibility.
Yes, I feel like you can be different, but I feel like if you don't have a lot of similarities, or if you're not compatible with somebody, how do you expect to like them in the morning?
I think what happens is sometimes we'll focus too much on similarities that you don't realize that the differences in a person is what you actually need.
Okay,
Like
explain.
when I met you, we are completely different people, right? You are somebody who is very detail oriented. You pay attention to the facts. You pay attention to every single cent that is ever missing out of the bank account,
That's
right?
every man.
I mean, but from a factual point, like I'm a very driven person. I'm very goal oriented, but I build my goals off of my vision, like where I see myself and the things that I feel like I can do. Operate and most of that off of my feeling.
Gotcha.
You operate off of how does it make sense? Calculation, right? But I feel like the calculated aspect of you was complementary to me. It was something that I always say, like in relationships, there's something when you find the right person, they become everything you didn't know that you needed, right? Because you feel like we have a lot of similarities. It's not to say that we're extremely different, but it's within the similarities, the differences are actually the things that I appreciate more because they're the things that complete me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I agree with you there. I think you can have a lot of similarities, and the things that you don't do well, your partner probably does, and vice versa. And I think that's a healthy dynamic, because what you don't want is, okay, I'm lacking in the area and you lack in that area as well, but we need it to progress. And especially if you're like a couple in business, and somebody has a skill set that you necessarily don't have, you want to be able to lean on your partner in that aspect, and vice versa too. So I feel like that. I mean, that's important. I get that.
I feel like the conversation about compatibility isn't as detailed as it should be because a lot of times when you meet somebody, you move off of how they make me feel or what I think about them. But I think when you're talking long term and over the course of somebody's lifetime, if you are projecting marriage, but I think it's important in dating too, because I feel like some people would limit the amount of time they spend with certain people or in those wrong relationships if they actually started to understand the compatibility of this space. And when we talk compatibility, we're actually talking about what are really not just my likes and dislikes, but how does this person fit my puzzle? You know what I mean? And so it's like we're very similar when it comes to finances, when it comes to our goals in regards to money, because I was a heavy saver, but I also have spendability. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I have spendability. But you bring the stability to the household when it comes to, okay, we can do this once we do this. We can do this once we do this. You're somebody who likes to eat, but you can't cook.
That's true. But that's why you got a wife that can cook.
Which is, and I think sometimes people stay on the surface of those things when it comes to the level of compatibility. Like, oh, I can't cook, so she should be able to cook. Or I don't like to do dishes.
And well, to that point, I think that's why it's important to know what your partner's habits are, or who they are, like what they don't do, or what they choose not to do, whatever it is, before you even get married. Because this is why premarital counseling is important.
We are 100% advocates.
I believe don't get married if you ain't going to premarital counseling, because you find out a lot of these similarities or you know, whatever the word is, I don't know, but you find out if you're compatible or not. And a lot of the times, the differences can be deal breakers.
That's a fact.
They can be deal breakers, and it can cause a lot of confusion. So it's important to know what you're getting yourself into.
I think a lot of it too is self awareness, though, because a lot of times you would look at what this person, you know, how they talk about women build lists. They say women always put together these long lists of all these characteristics that I need the man that I'm going to be with forever to have. But I really feel like compatibility starts with self awareness, because once you start to understand yourself, you start to understand what I need that would be complementary to me versus just, you know, appearance. And, you know, I'm a sucker for your voice. You know what I mean? You sound amazing on this podcast. I got these mics sounding like my God today. Amen. But I say that to say it's more than just those things, but I think it starts with self-awareness. And when you start to understand who you are, I think that is how you start to appreciate the differences that other people have. And you now see them as compatible characteristics versus differences, because a lot of people bump heads about, oh, you don't like what I like.
Right.
You know what I mean? They bump heads about, oh, you don't like what I like, or you don't want to do this and I want to do this. But it's like you talk about all the time, like I'm an extrovert and you're an extroverted introvert. Like you
Correct.
will
100%.
come, you are like by far one of the coolest people to be around, but you got to be around you to get
To
that
know it.
person
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
But if I wasn't a hostess,
Yeah. If you wasn't a hostess, I don't even know what my social life would be like. Because, like you said, I told you keep me social, just because that's what you bring to the table. That's what you like to do, and it does help me in a sense as well. It gets me out of my shell, whatever it is. You know, for people to see me with, you know, with my legs kicked up and a whole different side of me.
because your legs are always kicked up at home.
Right.
And
right,
I think that's important though, because you actually helped me to see the business acumen side of myself, of like the things that I was capable of versus the things that I was comfortable doing. And you brought those characteristics out of me because you were willing to kind of guide me, help me, and be a leader in that sense. That really helped me see that. But I think one of the most pivotal things that we did was start taking personality tests, and we kind of touched on it when we talked about childhood trauma. We talked about the love styles, or attachment styles, I think it's called. But we take personality tests so often because I think it gives you the opportunity to really deep dive into this other person and into yourself. But when you have like, you know, it's like you could say like, that's just how I am. But us looking through the lens of personality tests has put us in position to really like, oh, this makes sense. Like, you remember that one personality test we did? I think the first one we did after the attachment styles, when we talked about the avoider and me being
Yeah.
a pleaser, was when we were in business and we were talking about the colors.
Correct.
And I found out that I'm a hardcore red or a winter or a shark. And my husband is a hardcore green
Yeah.
fall sea urchin.
Yeah. Fall mindset. Fall.
And so can you kind of break that down, like what that looks like from your perspective? And then, you know, because I kind of opened us up, so you can kind of talk about what that looks like for me through your lens.
So like here.
So
figuring
talk
out
about
what
you
yours is.
first, though.
Oh,
Like,
okay. Figuring out what my sign
yes.
was. All right. So when I was listening to what a fall is, pretty much, fall is typically the person that's very, very analytical, very, very laid back personality as well. Though they like a million facts before making a decision. Now here's some of the things that they do though. They can have analysis paralysis, so they can think too much. And I started really resonating with this stuff. I'm like, dang, you're right, man. I can think through things like 5 years down the line.
Oh my God.
You know? So, but they also said they bring a sense of stability, though.
They do.
To a household. They bring a sense of stability. They're typically more business-minded people, very punctual people. You know, so all these different things I started hearing, I started understanding, like, okay, this is why I am the way I am. It's not because it's a flaw. It's just my personality type. It's you know how I operate day to day, and it's how I'm motivated. They're motivated completely different than most people. Typically, you know, it could be something. The best motivational speaker is speaking or whatever it is, and on the inside they're really really motivated, but on the outside you can't tell. You know, and all these things. I'm starting to hit this. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. It's so true, you know?
It is. I live with you, so I agree 100%.
It's so true. So hearing that stuff, it allowed me to start understanding more about myself and dissecting some of the things that I do on a day-to-day basis, or why I think the way I think. And so I think sometimes we even feel like the way we think could be somewhat of an insecurity. Like, why do I think this way? Why do I feel like this all the time? Or why do I think things all the way through instead of just acting on my emotions and stuff like that? Why am I not as emotional? Because that was one of the traits too. Somebody that's a fall, that they're not really the emotional type. It typically, what is it? They come to a room, they leave a room.
Oh my gosh, we talked about that already, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Which coincides with his avoidingness.
Yeah, but that's part of how you grew up. So a lot of the stuff that your personality type has a lot to do with how you were raised. And your upbringing and so many other things and factors into that. And a lot of people walking around grown as heck and have no idea what their personality type really is. They don't have any identification of what it is.
Right. And I think even for me, when it came to business, this was like one of the most pivotal things that I feel like I ever learned, was learning how to communicate with people based off of who they were, because I would hate being on the phone with you because you were asking too many questions. And I'm like, didn't you hear me say how we about to make this money? Like, what else do you need to know? Or, I was talking about money to people who wanted to impact the world. So, these are people that are like, y'all really don't care about the money. How's this going to benefit people? And then you got people that don't really care about none of that. They just want to have a good time. And when you start to learn how to communicate with people based off of how they hear, I think everything changes. And so when I start making decisions when it comes to our relationship, or I'm making decisions about our marriage or things that we're going to do, I have to channel my inner you in order to make what I feel like are proper decisions in our family, because I'm thinking the way that you would think about it before I make decisions.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think that? Like, because you have a personality type yourself.
Yeah.
But why do you think my personality type is the way you need to be thinking in order to make certain decisions? Like, why?
Because it's factual and it goes through all the details. My personality type is a red, right? I am a person that is driven. I am highly motivated. I'm highly competitive. But I just want to get to the money. Like, you don't have to give me any explanation. You just got to tell me how we get into it. What are we doing? How do I need to do it? And I'm going to go execute the plan. I'm a highly executional, whatever that is, person. Like, I'm not the person that's just all about ideas. I'm the friend that people come to when they want to flesh out something. Like, hey, this is what I was thinking. How can I go about executing said thing? Because I'm an executor. I'm ready to get to it. And I think because of that, I can miss some details because I'm so quick to act. And that's where we talk about complementary, whereas the person that I'm partnered with, the person that I'm connected to, we always are now, especially in where we are now, going into our 30s. Now we have a kid. It's like everything we now discuss, because we need both perspectives. Where you talked about analysis paralysis, but I operate off of vision. Correct. So like, I'm the person that's like, babe, we got this. We can do this. And I believe that if we do this, that, and that, and you at that moment would allow me to lead in my gift of personality. Like, we've accomplished a lot of things in business together based off of who I am. But we've also accomplished a lot of things and been set through our business. You know what I mean? Like, the stability of our business and the stability of finances as a family came from who you were.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why it's really, really important. Because remember, we got into this argument and I said, I feel like you're so gullible.
Yes.
I said, I feel like you're super, super gullible. You say yes to everything and you don't really think things through. And that's kind of I didn't know how to communicate what I was trying to say. And I also wasn't aware of your personality type at that time. So any couples out there or somebody that you may be interested in, you're dating right now, you could be feeling these things and you don't understand, like, they operate a certain way because of something.
But it's crazy because what you would consider gullible is due to lack of detail.
Correct. And that was wrong choice of words. Exactly.
I mean, wrong choice of words, but let's say that, that's what was said. So
we'll
go with what was said. because that was what was said, I didn't take offense to it because I understood. I also know that what you considered gullible was some of the greatest decisions we ever made in life.
That's true.
You
That's
know what I
true.
mean? Because I wasn't focused on how it makes sense. I was focused on where we were headed and what I could see and what I could envision. And so that's where we talk about, like, you can be complete polar opposites in that
Yeah.
sense, where I'm a visionary, you're a fat guy.
Right.
You know
And
what I
both
mean?
want the same
We
thing, have the
both want the
same
same thing,
goals.
exactly, but we go about them two different ways. But
Exactly.
because they are paired together, it makes it work perfectly. To whereas, I'm the person that's like, look, let's go spend the money. Let's go, let's have a nice day. We work hard. Like, let's just go to the mall and swipe the card till we don't want to anymore. And you like, nah, let's just save 95% of it. What are we doing? Why are we working so hard and enjoying nothing? But being who you are, like I said, that has created a lot of stability in our life because of the restraint that you've helped us create. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I understand that sometimes, because of my personality type, I can make quick decisions that don't focus on long term. I'm more long term when it comes to business decisions, but not necessarily life decisions.
And I think what's cool is that as a couple, you can learn from each other. Like,
Oh,
I take
yes.
like some of that stuff that don't think about it twice mentality. Sometimes I do take that.
We did it today.
I take that approach. We did that today, and I try to do that every now and then and be a risk taker, because the fall mentality, we're not big risk takers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And for so long you could be trying to figure out like why am I tipping on some things? Like, I ain't trying to take that risk. I'm more calculated. And you trying to figure out is something wrong with you? No. Embrace how you are, but also learn how to grow out of who you are and
Be
learn to
another
expand.
version expand who you are.
Be another version.
And like I said, the same thing with me is I've learned how to think through some things, versus moving so quickly. And I'm just a faster thinker. Like, I don't necessarily sit and dwell on things, but I
Right.
have started
Correct.
to actually, okay, let's weigh the options, let's weigh the facts, let's look at some of the stuff. But my process isn't going to be as long as yours. And even so that was our first, like, introduction to, like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like, because I used to feel like I just felt like he was combative. Like, why won't you let me be great? Why don't you see that this is wonderful and it's going to work out how it's supposed to, and you don't have to know. But it allowed me to embrace him for who he was, but also start to embrace those qualities for myself to see how can I grow as a person on all aspects of that as well. But I think the one that really changed the game was, I think it was like a 16 personality test, where I found out I was an entertainer.
Yeah, you was an entertainer. And was an entertainer personality.
Yes.
100%.
And
100%.
we found out you were a logistician. We didn't even know what that was.
Logistician. So if you're listening or you're watching this, look up logistician, what it means.
Yes, we're gonna put these quizzes. We'll put these personality tests in the show notes so you guys can take them, because we definitely want to hear from you. And shout out to y'all who are already in the comments and writing or having conversation, and we're talking kind of about these things and through these things, and we're getting your opinions as well. But we definitely want to hear about your personality types, so we're going to definitely drop that in there. But finding out that I was an entertainer made my life make so much sense, where it all ties back into that whole love style thing we talked about a couple episodes ago, which is how you grew up, where people pleasing has, as an adult, turned into, you just like to entertain. I like to have people over my house. Like, I like to cook. I'm like, yo, nah, just pull up to the house. I got the alcohol. I got the food. Y'all just come and have a good time, because I like to host things. I like to help people feel comfortable. I like to help people take a load off, just because they're in our space and in our presence, and be able to feel like when they're around us, things are changing for them, just because they got a day off. You know what I mean? It's just an energy thing.
Absolutely.
But being an entertainer is a person they were like, this is the person that breaks out into song and dance all the time. I've done that quite a few times on the pod already.
Oh my goodness.
And Malcolm was like, oh, that was the first sentence. He was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, wow, this makes so much sense, because this is real. This is me as a person for sure. But what was crazy about you and this logistician thing was where it said that people like him, they like all the mundane activities, like
Yo, that is true. Oh,
they
man.
said it
Wow.
said
I
They
remember that.
like doing stuff like the family taxes. Y'all, when I tell you we was on the phone with our
Yeah.
CPA, I have like a super check engine light. It's just I shut off. It's over. I'm gone.
Yeah, I've never seen you check out like that before in my life. She was like, I think it was about 10, 15 minutes in.
No. I was there for like at least 24 minutes.
Okay, whatever. You started declining very, very
Call
fast.
was 90 minutes.
Call was 90 minutes, and we had to sift out a lot of
Oh
stuff.
my
You know, we had to get
God.
through a lot of things because dot
And
the
back
I's,
to
cross
it,
the
like
T's.
you're the fact. I don't care about any of this.
You don't, and you don't have to. That's
Did
the
we
thing.
pay the taxes?
That's the beauty of having a partner and having differences, and still being compatible, like you said, because there's roles sometimes that you have to play. As business partners and as as regular partners, and that's one of the biggest roles in our business partnership
Yeah, no facts.
is that you don't really worry about stuff like that because I got everything on the back end. I'm taking care of those things, or I'm definitely checking on these things from a day-to-day time frame. So I think it's important because I understood it immediately. I'm like, babe, you can go. It's fine.
I literally asked,
you can go.
when he scheduled these calls, like, hey, we have a call. We don't.
We don't have a car.
I be
I
like,
got a
hey,
call.
girl, see y'all.
Right. And it's, and it is what it is, and I don't think nothing of it. But that's why it's important to understand your partner's personality. And
Let
what
me
they
ask you
like.
this: when did you realize how different we really were?
When did I realize it? I realized it when we moved in together and started living together.
Enlighten me.
But also, I think I realized that when we did start really getting into business together and kind of seeing how you were motivated and how I was motivated and how differently they kind of coexisted. But I started seeing those things, and we've had so many conversations or even I guess arguments
Definitely.
that would definitely show the differences then.
For sure.
I don't know. I can't even remember back to one, but we've had so many conversations around so many different things that I understood that, okay, she's not trying to process the way I process things. She's not looking at it from the lens I'm looking at it. And you've made a point to let me look at it from this mind frame. And that kind of helped me see, okay, because I'll be honest with this. I used to be like, no, this is how it is. Like this is what I think, and I think it's the best decision. And that was it. And that kind of rubbed you the wrong way.
I wouldn't say it rubbed me the wrong way. It just made me feel like I didn't have a place.
Correct.
Whatever that conversation would be, or that topic of thing in our family where, then it would be like, then when you were ready for my actual opinion, in another scenario, I wouldn't have anything to say because you've already made it known. I don't feel like I have a place here in this conversation because you're telling me what it is. Most of the time it's money. Most of the time when somebody asks anything that has to do with money, I just look at him and, I've settled, I've made a peace with that. I don't feel the same way I used to, but we used to have conversations where you just, well, what do you think? I'm like, it doesn't really matter what I think. I don't feel like I have a place in this conversation because at the end of the day, it's going to be whatever you want it to be. And so why are we even going through this? Why are we even asking me? Because it's going to boil down to you. And I think that we had a lot of conversations and disputes and disagreements around that because there was a point where, and I think it was after you left your job, because prior to that, I handled all the family finances.
Yes, prior to that, well, do you remember why we had got into it?
Yes, because he over here like, where's the money and why is this? Shut up. Don't worry about it.
It was
all the bills are paid.
Like I feel like you took so when I came off work and I started like paying attention more to certain things, I felt like you felt attacked.
I did,
in a sense, and all I was trying to do was getting understanding, because if I had to fix something, I needed to know what was really going on.
But
and the questions I was asking,
but it was because of approach and because we didn't understand each other in that magnitude at that time. It was hard to accept what you were really saying, or it's like if you ask me now, we have the conversation differently. You know what I'm saying? If we're having conversations about finances and stuff like that, it's significantly different than it was. That was like 2017, 2018. Yeah, 2019 actually. That was after we got married. So 2019, and it's just like I felt attacked because it was like it felt like my place in the family, especially because you were working, and so I couldn't find a job at the time. You know what I mean? I was building my business and all the kind of stuff like that, and so that felt like my place where I contributed to the household because I couldn't contribute to the household financially.
Yeah.
And so when you now were in a place where you were trying to take it, it felt like you were taking it from me. And you weren't, but
I wasn't,
we
right.
just didn't understand how to communicate our differences in the matter of money.
Yeah.
And I think these are important conversations to really have. And we put together what we found out. We read about the 7 pillars of compatibility and conversations that need to be had, you know what I mean, going into relationships of any sort. And of course, finances is on there, Finances is always on there.
I think it's the biggest one. That's why we're harping on it right now, because it is probably the biggest thing
It is.
couples go through.
And my parents, they're marriage counselors, and when we ask them what are the 3 main things that ruin relationships, they say it's communication, finances, and sex.
Yeah.
Every time. And I feel like it's 100% real. But we're going to talk about these 7 pillars of compatibility because I think they're really, really important. The first one being life goals. And so life goals being like, do you squeeze the toothpaste in the middle?
How is that a life goal?
Or do you push it? No, I'm just playing. Life goals being like, they're basically talking about like, what if I want kids but you don't?
Right.
You know what I mean? If you expected it to be a 2-income household from the work standpoint, but I want to work. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to be a caretaker. And so I think life goals, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Like how would you feel if I said I never wanted to work in our marriage and I just want to take care of our kids?
That I don't know. I felt like I would have felt 2 different ways about it.
Okay.
Because I've always envisioned having 2 incomes, 2 working people. Mm-hmm. Because that's just what I saw growing up.
Me too.
So that was the example that was set in front of me. But then on the other flip side of things, and me now being a father and seeing how important it is for the mom to kind of be around mm-hmm. and how they cling to the mother.
Oh my gosh.
It's something crazy, So I could understand why somebody would want to be a stay-at-home mom. So I couldn't necessarily fault somebody mm-hmm. in that. So I would feel both sides. I would be like, man, I want a 2-person household, a 2-income household. That will put more strain on me, which I don't necessarily care to an extent. Mm-hmm. That could be a big strain. It is what it is. But I feel like hearing that initially mm-hmm. before marriage, that would set off some problems where we would have to really discuss some things like, okay, so you want to be a stay-at-home mama forever, or up until they go to school? Because, and I think that's where you got to start getting some clarity. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, how long do you want to not work?
And I think sometimes when those conversations start being had, they get taken for what that one phrase was. Hey, I want to stay at home. I no longer want to work. I want to quit my job. I want to do this. And now it's like, what? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, you going off.
But it's not developing the, hey, well, our kids are young. Our son he'll be 1 in June, and I want to stay home until he goes to preschool, until he's 4, or until he goes to day. Like, you know what I mean? It's having that level of conversation to see, are we on the same page with this? Are you comfortable with now? You grew up in a 2-parent, 2-income household. I grew up in a 2-parent, 2-income household. Both my parents work, but I have friends where, the dad only worked and the moms were caretakers. And I always, I thought something was wrong with my family. Like, what's going on? Like, why is my mom not at home with me? You know what I mean? And I think sometimes how you see other families growing up determines what you want for your life. But I definitely wouldn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I'm technically a stay-at-home mom based off of entrepreneurship. Like, I don't think they're the same thing.
It's a different ballgame
it's a
now.
Different thing.
But I think some, like a lot of people aren't truthful with their partners about that. Like, mm-hmm. you'll just stop going to work and just stay at home now, and you won't ever go back. Mm-hmm. And the partner's trying to figure out, like,
what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. And you're not voicing that, hey, this is I want to be a full-time mom. I just want to, this is what I want to do right now. And they're not having that conversation. And I think it's unhealthy because now you start to resent each other.
Because of unspoken conversations, what goes
Correct.
back to what? Top three things: communication, finances, and those two tie in together. But with no communication and when money gets funny, the sex always gets effed up.
Correct.
And that ain't okay.
It's not. We're going to get into that.
The second one was love laws, so like love styles. So we talk about another personality test, we'll add this one too, is the 5 love languages.
Okay.
We took that one where they talk about like, I think the 5 love languages is very important because we often try to love people the way we want to be loved, but we're not giving them what they want, right? Like, my love language is touch. My love language is quality time. But my husband's love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah, I guess I was about to say because I really didn't know
Words of affirmation and quality time.
Definitely.
Like my husband he wants to spend time. Like although he likes his solo time includes me. You know what I'm saying? But it's words of affirmation that's telling him he's done a great job. But if I just continue to touch you, if I just continue if I just be out here,
that's a love language too for a lot of dudes.
I don't think it's a love language. That's just what
that's
like.
just us. That ain't a love language,
right? But my point is, like my mom was like that. My mom was not a toucher, but I was, and that's how I wanted to be loved. My mom used to be like, "Bro, get off me!" Like, and it's crazy because our son is Caden is all over you. Like when he loving you. He loving you. He's all over you. He's flipping on your face. He's doing all kinds of stuff.
Correct.
But I think that's important to understand. Okay, well, if my son becomes a toucher, if he becomes a person that needs not a toucher, that sounds crazy. Crazy. But if he becomes a person where his love style, his love language is physical touch, but I don't hug you, and you want hugs, and I'm like,
yeah, no. What kind of like?
I'm just not giving you what you need.
Lasting effects does that make?
Also, right? Which, this whole thing, it keeps tying back into the How We Love book. But that stuff comes from, I feel like that only comes from the fact that you are trying to, like, because I don't like physical touch, now I'm not hugging my son who likes physical touch. Because I'm not like that. But that's me showing love based off of how I want to be loved versus giving the person what they need. That's like you saying you like acts of service. You want a clean house, but I'm giving you gifts. I'm buying you Jordans every week. Yeah, it's
complete. You're going to always have friction. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the love language thing, I think that's super important. How do you feel about it?
I agree. I think it's important to know or at least be curious in knowing your partner's love language and even yours too, because I'll say this for a lot of guys, I'm pretty sure we don't actually really know. Mm-hmm. We don't know until we probably read up on it or hear about it, and you can identify with it. Like, oh yeah, that's me. I can see that. Mm-hmm. 'Cause that was me. I had no idea what my love language would be. I'm like, I don't know. Physical touch, me? No, I guess I don't know. But until it's explained, you won't know. And to hear what yours was is now you know how to love your partner. Mm-hmm. Now you know, okay, well, I ain't similar in this aspect, but I know how to love her in this way and meet her this way for her to feel loved.
And that's not just with relationships, like husband, wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. That's with your friendships. Like,
yeah, that too. Yes,
you know what I'm
definitely.
saying? That's I'm a very show up kind of person, and it took me a long time to not be offended for people not showing up for me when that's just how I like to show love. I show love by showing up for the people that I love, but I can't be upset because people didn't show up for me.
You used to.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like I had to identify that, no, Brett, that's just how you show love, though.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. But show love the way you want to show love, and, but you're doing it with the intent of, this is just how I feel and this is what I want to do, but not this is what I expect from others. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's super important. You want to read the next one?
So the third one, yeah, I definitely want to read the next one.
I'm crazy. I'm cracking up. I didn't even read it for me to say was that the one that you wanted to read.
Compatibility, sexual needs. So do I have to read this?
if you want to.
Okay, I don't really have to
You
read
can
this
kind of infer
because this
whatever.
word is crazy.
What is it?
You see that? From polyamory to sex, couples who have similar views, sexual preferences, and desires tend to have longer lasting and healthier relationships. So my question to you is,
Don't ask me anything. You elaborate on what you need to elaborate on. You do not need to ask me any questions.
do you think we are sexually compatible? and what I'm really asking is like appetite. Like,
Oh no, we're
I
significantly
feel like
different when it comes to. But I feel like that's a male female thing. Well, let me not say that because there are some females that have a high sex drive. But I just feel like you've told me that you were like like if women if we had to have sex the amount of times that men want to, we would die.
I mean, it's true, but that's not how men are thinking when we first like one get into marriage and live with our woman. We're not thinking like that. We're literally thinking, okay, every night I can finally do what I need to do every
But
night.
I think that's
And
based off of.
It's not true.
It's not true, but it's based off of like we just broke this down like probably a couple of years ago. We were talking about this when we were like, when you are in a relationship when you don't live with that person, you think what you think is frequency isn't.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I see you once a week or when we were living long distance once a month, like what you feel like is frequency isn't as frequent as you think it is. It's because you don't see this person, and so it's a consistent situation. Yeah. But now when I see you every day,
yeah,
what's up, bro?
And for and for men, I think it's a maturity level that you kind of got to reach experience too. And I think we're not really taught this as any male. I don't think any male is really taught this as far as when you get married that, bro, you're not going to have sex every day. It's not even physically possible for her, and we come into marriages with this false mentality, thinking that we're going to get it every night. And we expect it.
We're very sorry for your
And then
loss.
we're pissed off. Thing is, we're pissed off when it doesn't happen.
But again, because of lack of communication, and this is where premarital counseling is so important because at least the course we went through, which was called Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts, there was we had a whole night on that because I think sometimes you go in there with false expectations, but they're not communicated. So it's like, oh, I just thought that you were going to cook and wear an apron and no clothes all day for the rest of my life. And I'm like, but you never told me that that's what you were expecting or looking for.
Correct.
So you have this fantasy that's been created that you haven't articulated. So now you're upset about something that I don't even know about.
And no one with wisdom told you, hey, bro, don't expect this. Don't expect this.
Why do you keep saying that?
And not in a bad but not in a bad light. In a realistic light is what I'm saying. In a mature light, like, bro, do you really expect that she's gonna do this forever, all day, every day? She's not a robot, and neither are you. And there's so many things that we come into marriages with these expectations that are unrealistic for our partner. No, and that's where the growth has to come in understanding these 7 pillars of compatibility.
You said something that I think we were having a conversation when I was pregnant, and you were talking about something that your sister had told you because I remember even in premarital counseling where, we were talking about that, and shout out to Mike again. Mike was like, bro, what are you going to do when she has a baby and you can't for 6 weeks? Yeah. You know what I mean? And I don't think I don't think sometimes men put that into perspective because it don't really be 6 weeks. It's really the weeks that be leading up to it. It could be after 6 weeks. And so you might be at 2-3 months unbeknownst to you just because you just knew, 6 weeks, she back at it. You know what I mean? It was and so, kind of share with them like what your mind frame was when now we're transitioning into a whole new season of life where you go from being newlyweds or, and because I had some challenges health-wise during pregnancy that made a lot of our life different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think my mindset towards it was she has a baby boy pulling on her all day.
To this day.
But all day long. And it's brand new for her. It's brand new for me and it's definitely brand new for her. So someone's pulling on you all day, needing you all day, and literally getting their food from you, and then in the same breath, you have this grown man trying to pull on you all day, every day too. It's just like it's a lot. It's a lot for a woman to take. Especially with no rhythm involved, like you haven't even gotten used to this kind of lifestyle. And so the 6 weeks, I had no, I had no expectation of anything. I knew what to expect. I had to really, really understand, like, okay, a human just came out of this woman. I gotta be able to give my wife grace.
100%.
And that takes a certain level of maturity too, and understanding that we don't always get, and men, we don't always get that. It took me some time to kind of wrap my head around that, but once you are going through it, you have to understand, like, man, it's so many challenges or differences that's about to happen in your life that things are not going to be the same now. Now, what changed? A lot of stuff that changed was, I want to say not even frequency. It wasn't frequency. It was just coming back together.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Finding
the comeback is
the
very
finding the chemistry back together, because there is a baby probably right in between you all now, or
for sure
always crying. So you're looking to take care of them, and we're looking to take care of them. So it throws off your rhythm and your compatibility, I feel like, then too, sexually.
Yeah, no. I mean, it definitely took a while, because I feel like even with that, although there is the child, it's also for me. I won't say for women, because for me, I was just afraid. Like, I'm like, yo.
Talk about that.
I'm not with it. Well, first of all, let's just say that
might
I
be
was
a whole another podcast.
that definitely is on a black podcast, but I got a little black magic. And I was hearing from people what their experience was like when they came back together with their husbands or their boyfriends or whatever, and it was always just horrible. And I was just like, bruh, I'm not with the horror. Like, I do not, like, I've already just pushed a whole person out of this. I just had, these contractions that felt like death. I've been in enough pain. I really think I've been in enough pain to have to know that in order for, but it also was challenging, because I'm like, dang, like, I gotta hurry up. Like, I gotta heal up. Like, my husband is out here waiting. He's out here, in the desert, dry land. And, what I'm saying? It's Lazarus, he needs to walk. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the same time, like, where you have your personal, like, I'm not even ready for this. I'm actually afraid of it. I am not rocking. And shout out to my midwife, Brittany. She was amazing. And she just like, Britt, look, if you're not ready, you're not ready. Don't even try to force yourself to do that, because I think it's not even talked about. I think the full process of pregnancy and delivery and recovery postpartum is not talked about in depth, to where you don't even know that they're like, I didn't know this until I went to my postpartum visit or whatever, that your uterus is scarred because of all the stuff that's going on, and that has to heal internally. That's what the actual 6 weeks is for, is because your insides is effed up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's like I had to give myself grace, but I also was scared. But it's like, I'm scared because I don't want my husband to be too far away from me, or, over time, like, this is taking too long, and now we're estranged because we sexually,
like you're losing compatibility.
we're losing our compatibility sexually, or what's the vibe gonna be? You know what I'm saying? Ain't no belly here no more. What's that gonna be like? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a whole lot of thoughts in my mind I was grateful to have a partner like you that was patient, that was, just chilling. Like, hey, when you ready, we good. You did get a little antsy at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable.
Do you feel like we're sexually compatible?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
At times. At times, for sure. But nonetheless, yeah.
Got it. Next.
All right, moving on. Yeah, you was on that for a minute, obviously.
There must need to be a whole episode for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so differing in intellect. So this is talking about, like, I like to go to musicals, and you like to sit at home and play video games. Like, what do we like to do?
Well,
What
I
are
don't,
our
but
so
yeah.
not you? I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
What are the things that you like to do that is significantly different from the other person? Like, I'll say, even when we were in college, like I used to be in the studio or have gigs or be at shows and all that. And you were playing basketball. You were doing all things athletics. I was doing all things music. And basically, this whole thing is like, what if you're the person that like, yo, I don't want to be around that? What if I'm the person that's like, I like baseball and you like basketball and you like, I'm not going to no Braves game.
Yeah. I'm 100% that person that will tell you if I don't want to do something.
Which sucks though.
Explain.
It sucks because if this is something that I now enjoy, if this is something that I want to do, and you're now saying, I'm not rocking. So now we can't do that because I don't necessarily want to do it apart. Like, I didn't get married to have to do activities alone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
I got married so that I could have a partner. So would you go to an opera?
Absolutely. I would go to an opera, especially because I've never been. I'm always about, all right, something new, definitely. But let's talk about that because are you, when you're saying that, are you looking for support? Or are you looking for, like, dang,
Somebody who's going to now love it with me.
yeah, are you looking for somebody that's going to love it with you? Because a lot of people, a lot of partners will lie and will go and will be in complete
Misery.
disarray and misery the whole entire time. And I'm not that person. I don't want to live in misery. So I'm going to say it and let it be known, like, I don't want to go or I don't want to do this. And this is what it is. But then also understanding what you just said is that, but what if you really want that? What if you really want your partner to go? Then that's when things get fickle.
Well, what the article was saying was like, over time, if these differ so much that you're going to spend the majority of your social or personal time away from the other person because this person doesn't want to be involved with your thing.
Got you. Okay.
Right? Like,
So that
so
creates.
like, even so, right? Like, I'm a praise and worship leader, but you don't necessarily, we have dealt
That's
with this
real.
for almost a decade where I'm
It's also religion oriented. Seven
Yeah.
pillars. Yeah.
but we'll get to religion, but with what that aspect is, like, you don't necessarily identify with this church. Like, this is not a church that you want to be at.
100%. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's different. But I will say, like, that's an example of,
That is
like,
a definite
where I'm
example.
going somewhere every single week that you don't necessarily want to be at because you don't want to be there. And so now I'm spending all this time somewhere away from my family because it's not somewhere that you want to be. And so that's kind of like that aspect of what it's talking about, is like, what is that thing that, is this a non-negotiable? Is this a, because I mean, you do show up sometimes, you know what I mean? You show up for me. So I think that's different. But what it's talking about is like, am I spending the majority of my time doing my thing without you because you just don't rock with it? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, and looking on the other side of it, you also don't want to. I mean, I think you also want to have an identity outside your partner too. In a
I
sense,
agree. I definitely agree with that.
you don't want to have to be so codependent. So I get that too, but I really feel like sometimes it's like, okay, you got your thing, I got my thing. You know, I don't really feel like doing that, but if you want to do that, you can do that. And having that discussion beforehand and trying to sift out, like, okay, do you want me to support you in this moment, or do you just really want me to go?
Right.
And letting that be known.
But that's communication. Again, it all boils down to the same thing, same three facts, which is now communication and saying, hey, I want your support. I want to see you there. I want to have you there with me. I want to spend, or I just want to spend some time with you. It's been a long time and I got to do this. Can you come with me? I just, I miss your company or whatever. And I think it's just being honest. Relationships is marriage especially, but relationships are a mirror. It's you being honest about the things that you need. You know what I mean? I've had even moments with my best friend where we had been estranged because, she had moved away for a while and my life was changing because I got pregnant, and we just had to have a conversation. Like, she hit me with I don't really know where I fit in this new version of your life. And I hit her with when you left, everything felt like it turned upside down for me because I didn't have my person anymore. You know what I mean? Because y'all
Oh
know you
yeah.
got soulmates in your spouse, but you got like a soulmate person in life too. And it was like I felt like I had lost one of my soulmates. My husband was so ready for my best friend to come back
What?
to Atlanta. He was like, "Oh my
I
God, you."
was just telling somebody this the other day. Like I remember that time when my wife, I was her best friend, like the
He had to
point
be
where you
both of
don't
them.
want to be
He had to
that.
be my girl best friend
Yeah,
and my husband
and I
best
had to
friend.
tell her like, yo, I don't care about what you talking about right now. Like, I don't even understand what you just said. I'm not there. You can't dump all this on me.
Because guys
Where's your friend?
compartmentalize.
Where's your friend? Like, you need a friend outside of me that gets this, or you could confide in, and it's needed. Because yeah, it was a lot.
It's real though, but I think it's being vulnerable enough to say, this is where I am and this is what I need. Even in your friendships, like, you know what I mean? I have friends that are in multi areas in my life that they serve different purposes. Like I have business friends, I have my married friends, I have my mom friends, my couple friends, like, and a lot of them are all in this, they're all the same person. They all
Intertwined
fit
too, yeah.
in a lot of different categories, but it's like I need to also be honest and vulnerable about what does this friendship look like for me, and what does your friendship look like for me, and how do I want you to show up as a friend or as a person in my life. So what was the next one?
I think communication is the
Communication, for
next
sure.
one of the 7 pillars of
And
compatibility.
we pretty much talked about that through all the other 7 pillars, is communicating and being honest and humble. I think, why do you feel like people are so afraid to say, well, you definitely not afraid, and this is definitely the perfect question for you.
Sorry.
But why do you feel like people are so afraid to be honest about how they're feeling or the things that they need to feel whatever they're looking for?
I feel like people care too much about what other people think about them. People are people pleasers at the same time, and I think we don't think of what we want to do in that sense. Like sometimes I feel like you gotta be selfish in sometimes because you can give yourself so much that it's not reciprocated, and you can resent people for it. But to your point, to what you're asking me, I just feel like people they want to be accepted so much, and for whatever reasons, that they'll do, say, or anything just to be accepted. And for me, I pride myself on what you see is what you get. You accept me or you don't, but I'm gonna live my life, and I want to live it free of other people's opinions.
I think that is my favorite part about you. And that is by far one of the major traits that I have tried to learn from you. Especially, given y'all understand, y'all know what I'm talking about. We already talked about the whole pleaser thing.
Yeah.
I've asked him on many, like, how do you do that?
I mean, but sometimes in another sense, it can come off
Rude as hell.
rude, direct, or sometimes it can come off the wrong way, and that's kind of not how I want it to seem. All I wanted to seem is that I'm genuine. He's going to tell you 100% the truth. He's not going to sugarcoat nothing with you. He's not going to try to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you what you need to hear. And that's all it is. It's not that to say, oh, this dude is rude, he's an a-hole, because I'm not like that anyway.
No, you're not. But we have had those conversations as well, where it's like, I pride myself on communication. I pride myself on effectively articulating when I do decide to do that. When I start to be that person and I finally start to express myself, I really pride myself on articulating it the best way possible so that people understand it, because I've been the person where people said I was unapproachable because of how the conversation was going, and to me it's just being direct. To me it's just like, get up and get to it, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. But what I had to understand is that, again, you have to communicate with people how and who they are. And we recently had a conversation where I'm like, yo, you cannot talk to people like that, and you were like, I just got to say what it is. And I'm like, you can say what it is and not say it that way.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? And I think that's also something that makes people skeptical, or they are, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't want to express themselves because the response, even if they know, because I have a saying that says know your personnel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
if I know if I say this to Malk, this nigga about to eat me alive. You know what I mean? So now what do now I might be
Not always though.
choosing
Yeah,
what I say to Malcolm because I know, and this is of course assumption, but that's what experiences cause you to do.
yeah, absolutely.
Infer what I expect to happen moving forward.
Yeah, that's the trauma that you have. Yeah, I agree, and that can sometimes be misunderstood and really a flaw too. You know that can be worked on, and I think it's important to understand that and know that for yourself. Like uh, if somebody can relate to this episode, understanding how you operate and how it can also make other people feel. So you can be sensitive to and learning how to communicate with how they, how they are and who they are.
Yeah.
You're right.
But that's where, I mean, the whole point of this episode, the whole topic of what we've been talking about is how you can be different from somebody, but you can learn a lot from your surroundings and the people that you surround yourself with, especially the people that you connect yourself, the person that you connect yourself to. So it was being okay with, he might not be happy that I'm telling him this, but I have to tell you because it rubbed me the wrong way. So I can only imagine what and I didn't even let you get it out. You know what I mean? Because I felt the it was about to be bad. But it was being okay with communicating something that was difficult to my partner. Even in multiple areas, finances, in compatibility, sexually, like he was talking about, it's being able to say, am I not willing to have the hard conversations? Am I only willing to communicate the good stuff? Am I not willing to sit down and have the difficult conversations about the things that I don't like, or because of what it might make a person feel like? And that's where communication is really, really, really huge in compatibility. Like, am I gonna be able to be with this person long term and have to hold my tongue the whole time?
Right. Let's talk about number 6.
Your favorite.
Is it though? Religion. Let's talk about religion.
Yes.
Did you feel like we were compatible in that area?
When we first met, that was one of my concerns.
Explain.
It was one of my concerns.
Definitely grew up in the church.
He did. And that's the thing. This is where I feel like sometimes from a religious standpoint, how you grew up in the churches that you grew up in and the denominations that you grew up in, they give us a depiction of what a believer looks like. And so Malcolm was not looking like the typical believer I knew. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't looking like the typical Christian that I knew. And so because of that, and that was just more so because my husband is an internal praiser, like whatever you want to call it. Like Malcolm is not about to be out here hooping it. Malcolm is like, he's very, he has a very close relationship with God, but because it didn't look like what I was used to, I didn't think he was that person. And I even I remember I told you I had a friend at the time who was like, but do he know God though, Britt? Because he doesn't feel like he knows him. And I was like, how do you know, bro? Like,
Right.
how do you know? How do you know? Are you with him in his prayer time? Because if you are, we got some other things to talk about, honey. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the only reason I didn't think that was because of what I was used to seeing or what it looked like to be a Christian. And I honestly appreciated it more because you didn't look like what it looked like to be one, which is what I appreciated the most, simply because now I'm like, yo, it's not even about a look. It's about your relationship. It's about how you commune with the Father or whatever you want to say. And so, no, I didn't think we were going to be compatible, but that's communication. We started having conversations, and yeah, the way I found out was the funniest thing ever, because I remember I texted you. We were at home. I don't remember what time this was, but I remember I texted you, and it was a regular WID. What you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm about to watch my show. And I'm like, what show?
What show was? Oh, I know.
It was like Sunday Best.
Sundays.
I was like, what? Like, y'all, look at Malcolm. Look at him.
What
Or
does
listen
that
to him.
mean?
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
That's
you would not see
craziness.
you and think that you at home watching Sunday best. Like, what? That didn't make any sense to me. I was
Oh,
like,
I'm hollering. Oh
if you
wow.
go to his mama house though, she got pray. What's the network?
She what is it?
Whatever the gospel,
106
whatever the gospel station
1067?
is,
I don't
it
know.
plays all day
All day
long.
in the silent abyss, like it's
Yes,
just a
it's just
hue
a
of it,
huge. Yeah.
and you learn every song.
So me and Malcolm, I
known
be
to
singing some
man.
real old stuff, and my husband, when he starts to sing it, I'm like, "What you know about that?" He be like, "Girl, I
No
grew up in the
more.
church," and that's when we started to have that conversation about like your upbringing and all that, and like, listen, Sharon and Gary don't play about no church.
They definitely don't. They definitely don't.
Okay.
They definitely had us in
Like,
church and
what?
discipleship and everything else, which I think creates a foundation that is needed. And I could agree with you. I didn't look like I probably whatever you were used to, and I didn't serve in any churches, so it definitely didn't look like what you were used to. I'm
Right,
pretty
for sure.
sure. But
Because I
religion
dated
wise,
musicians my whole life.
yeah, you did, yeah. But it is what it is. So I'm like, I'm just me. And here's the thing: I said I'm not going to put on.
And I love that.
I have a relationship with God, but I'm not going to put on like I do or do not. And what you see is what you're going to get, and you can take it for whatever it is. But for a while, I was like, because you grew up in a whole different denomination than me.
Yeah, facts.
So your experience, religion wise, was completely different than mine. Now I don't know. Is there a real difference between religion and denomination? Is that a difference?
Yes, there's a difference. Like religion is like Muslim, Christianity, Hindu, ism.
Okay.
Denomination is like Baptist.
Right. Okay. Cool. So we had the same religion then, but we had different denominations we grew up in.
Correct. Significantly different.
And your BK.
But I think one of the biggest things which we're actually learning now because one of our newest conversations is like what does your church need? Like what do you need from a church when we're looking for a home church? And that's a conversation like that you don't really, I feel like that's one of those levels of communication that most people don't even talk about. Like, what do you need from a church? I feel like sometimes you just end up at a space and do we both like this? But we've been having that conversation like, what do you need? And I think because of, it's not just denomination, what I've broken down at this point. It's not just denomination, it's really the environment that we grew up in, from the sense of you went to a mega church. Like, I remember the first time I visited your church, we was in the nosebleeds. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why am I at the nosebleed? Why am I in the nosebleeds at church? I had never experienced that. But I grew up in like a family church where it was, a couple hundred people, but everybody kind of knew everybody, or you grew up with the same people. And I mean, to this day, like I still talk to my friends that I, grew up, we're having kids, they were in my wedding, all that kind of stuff. And so I think for more than just denomination, the secondary thing to that has been the size of the church. And because your church was so large, you didn't have the same type of family type community that I had, because my church was way smaller than yours. You had thousands of people, 3 services.
Yeah.
We had one service and a couple hundred people every single week. So I think that does contribute to it. But when they're talking about religion, we're talking about, it's important to have conversations where, we had to start talking about how would we want our son to grow up, or, how will we raise our family. And I think that's really, really, since Caden's been here, I don't think it's been as much. I mean, I don't think before him it was as much as a pressing issue as it has been since he's been here, where it's kind of like, okay, what's our plan moving forward? Are we a church family? Are we what are we?
And I think for me, because you're a praise and worship leader, I've always gone to whatever church you were at. And I had got to a space where I'm like, I'm no longer just going to go because my wife serves here. I want to know if I'm getting fed there. And if I'm not, I got to make some changes, or I got to figure it out. Because I think a lot of people deal with that, especially if you with somebody that's, a praise and worship leader. You don't just want to go to a church because they're going. I don't think that's fair on your end. I don't think it's fair on their end. Because you might not be given 100% there because you don't get fed there. So I had dealt with that, and I was like, man, I'm going to go where I feel like I'm fed the most, and we have time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank God we have time to figure it out. But I think I had wrestled with that. Like, are we compatible in that area because of that? Like, man, she's serving here, and I ain't serving nowhere. But I don't want to keep going somewhere.
Don't let Malk fool y'all though. We did serve at a church together.
We did serve at a church together. That is not true. Yeah,
Malk was a trustee.
Definitely.
Trustee Malk. He was my only faithful praise team member.
I was holding that tenor position down.
He was. So we have served together in church, so it is. But we did grow up, like you said, in two different denominations. I was honestly, you were the first person that I ever dated or brought home to my parents where the question wasn't about how are you going to make that work.
I wonder why.
I think they knew you were my husband too, because it has always been a question and concern and comment in my household. And you were the first person because at the end of the day, you weren't the first guy I dated that was Baptist or that went to church on Sundays. Like I said before, I grew up church guy Sunday. I went to church on Saturdays my entire life. And you weren't the first guy that I'd ever dated that didn't go to that went to church on Sunday or whatever. Yeah. But you were the first one that when I brought you home, that was not a question on the even when you proposed or when we started talking about marriage, and it still wasn't like but what are you guys going to do about that, you know what I mean, where it had been a conversation before. So I think they just knew you was my husband. But that's what we talking about, religion compatibility. Like, if you're two different religions, if you're a Catholic and you're a Muslim, or you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, like, are we having the conversation of what this looks like long term? And it's not to say that it's not with anything that we said so far, it's not that it doesn't work or that it can't work. It's that, are you going to have the conversation in regards to what this looks like for us or will look like? And number 7, of course, is finances. We've already talked about money a lot, but that is huge.
Yeah. Do you have the same philosophy around money? Do you and your partner think of money the same way? Do you spend money in the same way? Do you make a lot of your money the same way? All these things you kind of want to be thinking about if you're compatible in that area. And for us, we definitely didn't spend money the same way.
We didn't make money the same way for a long time either.
That too. Like,
you got to remember, y'all remember I talked about, like, I would go home for summer break and I was working for the government. So you talking about I'm making 10 to 15 grand, or I'm saving 10 to 15,000 in the summer, and you making $50 a week from your dad's paycheck.
It was crazy. Struggling athlete, man, it's so wrong. It's so wrong.
And even so, after that, like, you was in college while I was full time working now for the government.
Yeah.
And then we swapped roles. I couldn't find a job and I was doing entrepreneurship and you were working. And then we both started building a business, and now we're focusing on building multiple businesses. And so we've made money multiple different ways. We definitely don't spend money the same way. My husband is not materialistic at all.
Would you say you're materialistic though?
I'm not materialistic. I just like things when I like them, and I want them when I want them.
Yeah, I think.
You think I'm materialistic?
I think you were. I think you were materialistic. I think that
it was dumb though when I was.
I think that if you saw it, you wanted it. And
yes,
me,
I just said
it was
that.
like not like you were influenced by, like, okay, if they got this, I want it too. I think you were like that.
And I will say it was till I did it. You know what I'm saying? I was the person that always wanted to experience being able to go to the mall because I wanted to get what I wanted to get, and just getting it because it was Tuesday. Not because I done saved up, not because I done waited all this. No, it's Tuesday. I want it. You know what I'm saying? I like to eat good. I like to go. I'm sorry. I like the $70 steak and the family style. Don't you dare, because y'all, don't let Malk fool you, because he 100% is down for that cause every time.
Yeah, but I'm more so the budget mindset, and I do things in moderation.
Yeah,
and I think
we could do that every week.
I think super far ahead. I think every guy does, and like I said, I had that conversation with you years ago when I said that if anything should have gone south between us financially, they look at the man first. They don't look at the woman. So there is a pressure there amongst men to make the right decisions financially and to be smart with your money or to have your money together. That's why a lot of us say we want to have our money straight before we even get into marriage. When honestly, bro, you could struggle with her, struggle. Y'all can come up together. You don't have to have it all
100%.
together.
I agree.
But it does depend on the person you choose to partner with. But I think there is that level of pressure amongst men that we don't talk about. We don't have that conversation enough to say like, yeah, man. I mean, there is this underlying pressure there, but you don't have to bear it all by yourself. And you can do smart things with your money and be financially savvy, and have a certain mindset where it's not that you're looking cheap, but you're looking to look out for your family, and it's okay with that.
And again, I feel like this is my life lesson. You want
Yeah,
to talk life
because I mean,
lessons?
this is part of the show where we got to talk about the life lesson.
Yeah,
So.
I feel like my life lesson is that the word compatibility can be seen in a negative connotation, like do we work or will we fit? But I feel like the ultimate, when you've truly understood compatibility, is when you've accepted the person for the differences that they have, and you choose to adopt some of them, learn some of them, and see how we can coexist with them. Because especially when we're talking financially, we're talking about different styles of communication. We're talking about life goals and hobbies and all those different types of things. When we're talking about those things, it's, can I exist in your world and can you exist in mine? Am I willing to go into your world and understand what happens and how this world functions? Because a lot of people don't realize that we all live on the same planet, we live on the same earth, but we live in different worlds. Everybody has their own personal world. And so it's my willingness to come over into Malcolm's world and learn how Malcolm's world operates. So because I have to be here often. And it's you saying, I'm going to come over in Brittany's world and understand how her world operates and how I function here and what I should do here so that I can live with this person with all their differences, but they now become complements to me. And I think that's what is one of my favorite parts about how we've grown over these last 10 years is that all the areas that I feel like are my weaknesses are places where you are extremely strong, which now makes us very complementary versus you are just significantly different from me.
Yeah, I think my life lesson is you can be very different from your partner, and it's okay. But like you said, allow yourself to learn from your partner. Adopt some of the things that they do well that can come into your arsenal that makes you a more whole person. I think sometimes we say, "Oh, we're different, we'll never work." No, you're different for a reason.
Exactly.
They're different for a reason, and embrace that. But also, identify some of your similarities and what y'all like to do together, and then I feel like you'll find some common ground on a lot of things, on a lot of topics or a lot of situations, and you'll be able to move forward.
And then I have a life lesson. Don't forget that the person that God created for you, he literally hand created, hand picked, and selected all the characteristics that they needed that you don't know you need until you meet that person. And so it's kind of like embracing them because God knew what you would need. He knew exactly the type of person that you had to be with to become your whole self.
Yeah.
You can't be your
That's
whole
real.
self unless you find your match. And I think it's remembering that the person that God has made for you is going to be perfect for you, even in all the differences that you have. So
I like that. That's one of my favorite episodes. And you cute. All right, y'all. Well, this has been fun.
because he's trying to take me home tonight.
Episode 5. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Listen, make sure y'all follow us at So Let's Talk About It Pod on Instagram. You can follow me at Brittany Donnell on Instagram.
My name is Malcolm Garrison. Also, you can follow me on IG, Malcolm_. 2_Garrison.
And I think we're going to bring back our questions, our listener letters. Are we going to do it this season or season 2?
Probably do a season 2, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll
I
see.
think questions,
But
for sure.
y'all continue to submit them because we're going to make sure that we start to address them probably in the later half of this season, but definitely in season 2. So y'all make sure y'all blow up the email at solet'stalkaboutitpod@gmail.com, and make sure that you like, share, subscribe, share it with a friend if you're enjoying this, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear how you guys are liking it. What are some of your takeaways? What are your personalities that you guys have now discovered? And then
we want to know. Enjoying the Patreon.
Yes. And we love y'all.
We'll
see you guys on the next episode. Let's